Hey, hello guys, welcome back. Um, so I wanted to make this special video because a couple of days ago my new course about Garry Kasparov and how to master the middle game in Kasparov's style was released. This was a collaboration with the Remote Chess Academy, and I really wanted to kind of present here one game of Kasparov and one game of mine, in which I want to illustrate to you exactly how Kasparov influenced my game and how I think that this course would also influence your game. Basically, I took a couple of Kasparov's most influential games, some of the themes that he used very often in his games. And for me, for example, when I was a growing chess player, I really felt that what made me improve a lot was watching his games. I was always stunned by the way he sacrificed material without having any direct attack sometimes or any very clear-cut way to victory. He just always had this feeling that his pieces would be more active than its opponents, and it's worth giving up the material if needed. And many times he would even sacrifice quite big amount of material just to gain some positional aspects. This is something you would encounter quite a lot in this course. So let me please show you an example of what I'm talking about. So this is a position you see. The position you see in front of you is taken from the game Movsesian against Kasparov. Kasparov is playing with the black pieces. We have a very typical Najdorf position here. Black just played the move knight f to d7, preparing, perhaps maneuvering his knight to a better square on the other side of the board. And here actually Movsesian, a very good strong grandmaster, played a kind of innocent move, king b1, even I would say almost an automatic move in the Sicilian defense. Many times players like to play this kind of move just to safeguard their king slightly in the coming complications. You see that this is opposite. White obviously castled long in this game. Most likely black will castle short and we will have a very sharp game. So white just decided to spend the tempo to safeguard his king slightly. Nothing weird or special by this point. And black played this developing move, rook to c8, putting the rook on the open c file. And actually, once again, white played a very natural developing move here, bishop to d3. Probably not feeling like something is about to get very wrong for him. And actually this game and some games which were played in the spirit of this game afterwards actually made the white players in this opening switch strategy altogether, and actually instead of the move king b1 actually start with the move bishop d3, and after rook c8 here it's white to move, so he's able to play here the move knight c to e2 and avoid exactly what you're about to see in the actual game. So king b1 was played, rook c8, bishop d3 as mentioned, and now Kasparov played this stunning exchange sacrifice, rook takes c3. Actually, when I first saw this game, this kind of took me by surprise, because I said to myself, okay, obviously white will take back, you will have double pawns, but can you really give up a rook for a knight that easily against such a strong player without having, let's say, a very clear attack? Once again, when I first saw this game, I was maybe 12 years old or something like this. And actually later on I've learned that this is actually a very typical exchange sacrifice in the Sicilian defense. But Kasparov basically took this kind of sacrifices to the next level, I think. He knew exactly when to play them and where and when not to play them. And I think until he played such sacrifices, perhaps many people would hesitate with such moves. They would only make this kind of exchange sacrifice if, for example, black can get another pawn in the center, for example. But here, as we can see, it's just a pure exchange sacrifice. No material is given back. But as we can see, as we shall see later on, black is not exactly counting on immediate checkmate here. He's just counting on the fact that white ruined pawn structure, and his ruined king position will allow black a very serious attack, which actually just is coming kind of step by step. There is no like a direct checkmate here. We see that a very important factor in this position is the knight on b6, which is a very good piece, kind of ready to jump into the attack on a4 or c4, being supported by this pawn, which always protects him. So black played here queen to c7, attacking the pawn on c3. Obviously, good developing move. White played knight e2, just in order to protect the pawn on c3. And what really amazed me once again at that time is Kasparov is not going crazy here. He is not going for any direct attack, because he knows that he's still underdeveloped. He still didn't castle, he still didn't get all of his pieces into the game. So he just played bishop e7, once again kind of calm as a cucumber, even though he's being material down. And white tried to create his own counter chances on the king side. He played g5, black castled, h4. So white is doing a very logical thing. He's not going to sit and wait for black to checkmate him, obviously. But black's attack is just coming so much quicker, and it's so much stronger because the pawn structure is already very much damaged on the white side. So it's much easier for black to find targets to attack. So knight a4 was played, hitting the pawn on c3. And white is now understand that he's about to get under attack, so he tries to move some pieces into the defense, bishop c1, a very understandable move to my eyes. And now you will see something interesting. In the next moves, black can actually kind of recapture one pawn on c3, but he never does this, Kasparov. He knows that the activity of the knight on a4 is worth much more than one pawn. Also, if black chooses to take it, then white will be able to consolidate his position with bishop b2, when it will become much more difficult to attack. And actually this bishop on b2 is not only being a defensive piece, but also might be an attacking piece later on. So there is really no reason for Kasparov to take the pawn. He just brings more pieces to the attack. Knight to e5, perhaps wants to come to c4 or eliminate the bishop on d3 if needed. h5. Now Kasparov plays another very strong move, d5. With this move he has two aims. One of them is to open up this diagonal for the bishop. We will see that later on this bishop will be quite significant in the attack. But also he wants to activate his light squared bishop. So for example, if white now chooses to take on d5, which I think is a big mistake, after bishop takes d5, we can see that actually this bishop is kind of looking in both directions, is very useful in the attack on the king, but also might also be very useful on the long diagonal attacking the white rook. So Movsesian played queen h2 here, trying to pin the black knight, but after bishop d6, black unpinned himself, also threatening now knight takes d3. So white played queen h3. And now Kasparov eliminated one very important defender of the king, the bishop on d3. And after pawn takes d3, once again we are not interested in taking this pawn on c3, because it will exchange this very strong knight on a4, which is perhaps one of the most important pieces in this attack. He wants to open up more lines against the king. He plays b4, and actually after after the move pawn takes b4. Once again, Kasparov always has this tendency to decline immediate material, taking material. So he can once again just simply take on b4, but this is not his aim. He wants to go for the attack. The pawn on b4 is just not interesting. It is not worth taking. It's not worth the move which is kind of lost by taking it. The tempo is more important. He plays rook to c8, activating perhaps his last undeveloped piece, threatening already queen c2 check. And after king a1, pawn takes e4, pawn takes e4. Now it's actually time for some tactics. You might take a look at this position and see if you can see the winning strike here for black. So Kasparov, of course, being a great attacking player, but of course, when the right time is coming, he always knew when it's the right moment to strike and to deliver the final blow. He played now bishop takes e4, a very nice move. So actually white didn't even take on e4, but if he does take on e4, the main point is that now black can play the move bishop e5 check without white having the option of blocking it with the pawn. And even if he chooses to block with the knight, the defense of the rook on d1 is really not enough to maintain the pressure against this piece, and he will collapse very soon. So white tried this desperate move g6, but actually it was nothing than just a shot in the air. White is not really achieving anything by this. Actually, Kasparov just took the rook and won in a couple of moves. And this game really inspired me in a great deal. I was really impressed. I also played this opening, so it kind of gave me some ideas about how to play the Najdorf. And really, maybe a couple of days or weeks after I've seen this game, I had a chance to play my own game, and it was actually a very, very important game in the Israeli league. I played with the black pieces. Let me just flip it. And we have the same Najdorf variation, only here white chose a slightly different setup, with the bishop being on g5 and the pawns being on f4 and e4. But we see the same opposite castling, and we see same kind of structures, pawn on e6 and d6. And I had this idea in mind that, well, if we have such similar structure and similar open file, why cannot I use the same type of idea? So my opponent was rated maybe 200 points above me, something like this. He played the move g4. He is being very clear about his intentions to attack me on the king side, maybe with later on with g4, g5 or f5, or sometimes maybe e5. His setup is very aggressive. But instead of trying to play some passive move to defend myself on the king side, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I played here rook to c8, once again developing the rook and setting up already this idea to take on c3, which I have kind of learned from Kasparov. I had seen this game really just maybe couple of days before this game. My opponent played developing move bishop g2, very sensible. And now I took some time to consider the move rook takes c3, because at that point in my life it was still not such an intuitive thing for me to just sacrifice the exchange like this. But kind of being inspired by the Kasparov game, I decided after some consideration to take on c3. And after pawn takes c3, once again I didn't have any checkmate, straight kind of very straightforward checkmate in my head, but I just realized that thanks to those weak pawns and the weakened king position, I will have a very strong attacking chances. just like in the Kasparov game. So I went for it in a very courageous way. I now play the move d5. We see a similar scenario from the Kasparov game. Black wants to activate his dark square bishop. Actually here it's even coming with the gain of check. So it's actually already a very difficult decision for white. If he tries to defend passively with a move like king b2, I have a couple of very promising options. First of all, I can just take the pawn in the center, already taking one pawn for the exchange while preserving my attacking chances. But the move I even like better is knight c5, because as we remember in the Kasparov game, the knight which came to a4 was a very significant piece in the attack. Here it's also a gain of check, so the move knight c5 actually makes a lot of sense to me, and black is a very promising position here. And so basically white, I think, made a sensible decision. He understood that he has no choice but to go for some counter attack, because if he will just sit and wait passively, it will probably go wrong, very wrong for him. So he took on f6. Knight takes f6. I actually could have taken the pawn on a3 also, but it's just not running away, so there is no reason to rush. And he played f5 to go for some counter-attacking ideas. So I took now on a3 with the gain of check. Now white had a very big decision whether to go on d2 or b1. He actually decided to go to d2, which looked extremely risky and was probably the worst move out of the two. But it's a very difficult decision, because if he chooses to go to b1, the king can also find itself in some checkmating box on the b1 square. So I can really understand why he was afraid to do this. So he played king d2. I took on e4. Once again, it's nice to have some material back, even though looking at this position today, I might even not take on d4, because learning from Kasparov games, I think one of the biggest things that we can learn from him is that many times time is more important than material. So maybe even taking on e4 is maybe even not necessary. Maybe a move like e5 to drive away the knight from its outpost on d4, and after the knight moves, actually the d file can be very useful in the attack. Maybe this was even stronger, but this is not so important for us. I took on e4, and actually now it took on e6, and I actually made quite a serious mistake at this point, which actually kind of took away kind of a big part of my advantage here, because I think objectively black has a very promising position here, but it must be precise. So here I played the kind of innocent move, just pawn takes pawn on e6. But as I mentioned earlier, sometimes, as Kasparov taught us, time is more important than one pawn. Because here I gave my opponent just enough time to create counterplay. He played g5, and after my knight was forced to go at some point, he had some checks with his queen on h5. The pawn on e4 was under pressure. This was a really turning point to this game, which almost kind of took the game to a completely different direction. So if I had better knowledge of the Kasparov games, I would definitely not take on e6, perhaps just develop. I consider the move castling as a developing move, so I would just play castle, not really minding about the material, because now even if white takes on f7, now the rook on f7 is also activated into the game. If he now plays the same move g5 as he did in the game, this is not the same. My king is now already castled, so he's very safe from his attacking ideas. And basically he could just I can just move my knight even to d5. From there I can maybe go to f4. I might even consider some sophisticated intermediate checks like e3, with the idea that after he takes on e3, the move knight d5 or knight g4 could be a tempo. Also the bishop might hit the bishop on g2. Black is a very serious attack here. And after I made this mistake, actually later on I kind of kind of messed up my advantage and only made a draw in this game, which was still a great result for me back then. This player, as mentioned, was 200 points rated above me. And this game was really kind of Kasparov inspired. So I really recommend you getting this product. I want to hear some opinion about the people who purchased it, about how good or bad was it. You can leave some comments below. So I will give a link in the description to the place where you can purchase this product. I will also give you a 30% discount on this product. This is available only in the coming days after releasing this video, so please be quick about it. And if you really want to improve your chess understanding of dynamics, strategy, many ideas that Kasparov taught us. Also, if you want to support me as a teacher, as a YouTuber, purchasing this product really helps me a lot and supports me. It would be much appreciated. And I really hope you enjoyed, and hope you good luck in improving your chess and kind of getting inspired by Kasparov's games. So thank you for watching this video, and once again, leave some comments below if you already seen the product and you want to make some comments about it. I would really appreciate it. So thank you guys, see you.